Welcome to Exploring Ham Radio, where I try to document the things I do or find in the ham radio hobby. This video is about me building a cable to go between the audio mixer and an ICOM IC-7300 for a friend of mine. The best way to do this is with an isolation transformer. That way the mixer is always connected to something, so even if you turn off the rig, the mixer's always tied to something, so there's no hum, there's no nothing like that. There's a resistor voltage divider to drop the line out to mic level to protect the radio and the transformer. Then they use a capacitor to block the 7300's phantom 8-volt power from damaging anything including the radio, because you don't want to basically short that out and blow out the radio. So that's what the capacitor is for. Here I'm cutting down the perf board and getting all the parts on it. So now you got the transformer soldered on, putting it on the 10K resistor. Then after the 10K resistor gets soldered on, it'll be the 100 ohm that goes across to the other side of the transformer, so basically the ground. And then we'll put in the capacitor. It's always fun getting the leads to line up to the holes that you want to put it in. I love doing little projects like this. I have a whole set of the perf boards and different kits of parts just to do different little projects like this. I'm one of those people that, why would I want to pay $50 for a cable when I can make it out of $10 worth of parts? My X-Acto knife isn't sharp, so it only gets replaced once in a blue moon. It's basically when I need to actually cut something. The rest of the time the blade's so dull, it's just more of my pointer and something to move things around with. I use it to score circuit boards, and I bought a box of blades probably about 5 years ago, and I think I've used maybe 10 out of the whole box. And so here's the capacitor. And the capacitor is only there for blocking that phantom voltage. ICOM's the only one that does it. You can use this exact same circuit pretty much on any radio. You can actually include that capacitor, and it's not going to hurt anything if you include it. In fact, I have a Yaesu radio that doesn't do that, but since I was actually testing this out for my friend that has the 7300, I went ahead and left it in there to see if it hurt the audio at all. And it doesn't hurt the audio at all. The Hell website for Hell microphones and stuff talk about just using a 1 UF capacitor. Everywhere else I've read on the net talk about it and say that if you want any bass to come through, to go ahead and use like a 4.7. And so that's what I did, because I don't want to physically alter the audio. I want it to be able to, if I don't like the bass, I want to be able to take that out in the rig. And what I just did a second ago was put in another wire for the ground to come across. So if you look in the schematic, how this works is you have, from the balanced side of the mixer, you have a positive and a negative, and then you have a ground. And so with that, you'll want to hit the positive and negative to the transformer, and then have the ground come across to the ground of the rig. You only want to do this once. So if you do a cable for going from the headphone out to the mixer, you do not want to connect that ground, or you make a ground loop. I found this out the hard way. And what I did is I have shielded 2-wire and 2-conductor cable, but in this case, since it's the band balance side of the rig, just to be safe, and just because, hey, it's there, I went ahead and just twisted the red and white wires together to make just one cable. Because with RF, and I just wanted to be safe. Unfortunately, the hole I wanted to put the ground in kind of got filled with solder, so I had to go wick that out. So that's what that little wire is there. It's just to connect the ground from the other cable that I don't have hooked up yet. All right, the input side, or actually I should say the output side of that is done. I use blue tack for everything. It just works so much better than helping hands. And as you saw, I even yanked off a little piece to hold the screws. For the microphone, you want to use pins 1 and pin 7. Now, I did put a little bit of heat shrink tubing on the ground wire just to be safe. I didn't want it to shorten out on anything. So I figured, what's a little prevention? You know, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. Since this isn't going to be mine, I'm sending it to somebody. I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to have any issues. Soldering iron wasn't working to get that heat shrink, but the torch did. So now, and I accidentally pointed to the wrong two cables. I pointed to 5 and 6, but it's actually no, that is right. It's 5 and 6. I pointed to 4 and 5, but it's 5 and 6 that holds the PTT. And so on my current rig, I don't have to do this. I've got a PTT jack on the back of my rig. The 7300 does not have that feature. So you want PTT here. So I get it all together and realize that the clamp that holds the cables isn't going to really hold it and keep it from yanking out. So I took it back apart and added a wire tie to it so that the wire tie is actually pulling on the back of the connector, so he won't ever have a problem yanking it out. I buy stereo jacks because, hey, they're more versatile. And then if I just need, like this, I just need to tip in the sleeve, then I just use one side. And the reason I plugged in that extra connector and got out the meter is I wasn't sure which connector on this was tip. So I went ahead and tested that out, and then I slapped some solder on the tip side so I wouldn't forget. And I always pre-tin everything, because if you notice how much faster you can connect things if you pre-tin them, and if you don't pre-tin them, then you're trying to get the flux in there and everything else. So I'm clamping down the clamp on the wire so it has the strain relief, and that end of it's done. Now it's time to do the mixer. So like I said, and you'll tip and ring. The tip of the mixer of the 1/4 inch jack is your positive. You want that positive on the same side of the transformer, the starting winding. So if you notice, there's 2 dots on that transformer. That's where the starting windings are. So basically, you want it on the same side as the positive output of the transformer. So that is just connected the outside shield of the cable to the ground of the rig. And like I said, if you connect a headphone cable to the mixer so you can listen through the mixer of the rig out. Do not connect the ground on that, or you'll have a ground loop. But you do at least need one ground. Some people may say you don't, but I had a really bad hum when I didn't at least connect one of the grounds to the rig from the mixer. There's no real place on there to ground, so I just put some solder on the back, soldered it on, then flipped the piece of paper, whatever it is, down, and that way your positive and negative of the jack don't short out the ground. It's just a nice little feature. And I always try to solder on the inside of the jacks. That way you don't touch the metal on the outside if you have a solder blob or anything like that and short it out. So try to put your wires on the inside of the connectors. That will need a little bit more solder. Give it a little tug to make sure it was okay. Cramped it down, screwed it together. Checked for resistance, make sure it worked. Now it's a 600 ohm impedance transformer, isolation transformer, but in actual resistance, it measures out about 120. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video has been helpful and you're able to make a new cable for your 7300 or any other rig. Just change the pin out on the connector to what you need for the rig and you're good to go.